Our lives are insane. They are a mess, and our whole situation is super confusing. So I'm just going to dive right in. There's a lot of context here, so let's get through it all, and then you can tell me if you think that we are crazy and stupid or if everything sounds very exciting. I can't tell yet. Starting off with a bit of context here, we are both Americans. I was born in Texas, my husband was born in Utah. We kind of lived in a few different spots. And then my husband won a job because he is a musician. So he did a ton of training, a lot of schooling, and it's just what he's passionate about. Like, he loves playing the French horn and he's really good at it. So he got his first job in New Zealand, which was super exciting. We were in New York at the time, and then he won that job through a tape of all things, which is just really crazy. Like, you never expect to win from a recording, but he had sent that off on a whim to New Zealand, and then we got an email at like 3 a.m. saying, you got the job. And it was a super crazy time. Like, it was COVID, the whole world was locked down, New Zealand was extra locked down, we had a newborn baby at the time, like crazy, but that worked out. We got over, and then we were there for 2 years, and it was great, and we loved it so much, and we thought that we were going to be there for a little bit longer, but then his job ended. At that point, we had a almost 3-year-old, and I was about to give birth. So we planned to stay around long enough to have our daughter there, and then we skedoodled on out. And that move was so rough because we had to pare all of our belongings down to 4 suitcases and a handful of bags. To say that it was horrible would be an understatement. It was actually some of the worst days of my entire life. Just the way that it all panned out, and having a newborn, doing an international move, dealing with a job loss, all of that all together was just horrific. So we didn't have any emergency fund saved up at that point. So we flew back home and lived with family for a little bit. We actually stayed at my sister-in-law's empty house because they had just moved. We like squatted in their empty house. Like, they had a recliner and a fridge and a stove, but like empty. And we had nothing because we had just flown from another country. So that was wild. And Billy was flying all over, taking auditions. And then he happened to win the job here in Vancouver. So once again, we packed everything up, and then we actually were able to drive up. We, at this point, had bought our van. And so everything that we had fit super easily into the back of our van. We ended up driving to Vancouver, and again, we settled. We've been here for 2.5 years. We made a whole life here, worked really hard to make a community and a network for ourselves, and just a lot of friends, and it's just a lovely life that we built here. Joke's on us, he lost his job again. So this time feels very similar but different, and the difference is being we have an emergency fund this time, which we learned our lesson last time. It is making all the difference in the world. Like, we're able to sit here a few months after the fact and be like, you know what, we're still okay. It gives us time to figure out what we want to do next, and it gives us the peace of mind. We're not just jumping at the first thing out of pure necessity and need. It's just, okay, let's figure this out and figure out what we want to do next. Another thing that feels really different is last time our immediate answer was, let's go to the States because that's home. We don't have to deal with visa stuff, and it just makes the most sense. Whereas this time, everything that's happening in the States right now, and I'm very sorry to say this, but I don't want to move back there. There's nothing about it that is enticing. And I'm sure that this is going to come across very awful to a lot of people, but I don't like the culture, and I've moved to different places now, and I see that the world is a much bigger place than I was raised to believe it was, and I find that beautiful, and I want to go explore the world some more. I don't like the car culture, I don't like the food culture that they have there, and I don't like the massive shootings that keep happening, and the politics are frankly terrifying, and so I would just like to avoid it if we can. And we do have this weird life set up that I feel like we do have the opportunity to go and try for something else, because mixed into all of this is the feeling of I don't want to move back. Like, whenever you move out of home, you grow so much as a person, and it just changes you. And then to go back to your hometown and be like, hey, and everybody is still the exact same, it's very strange, and it's really hard. And there's definitely a piece of that to the idea of moving back to the States. Like, I know that I can, it's just that I don't want to. Sorry, Mom. Another thing that's kind of similar but different is the fact that our kids are older now. So like, the last time we had this happen, we had both of our kids, but when one is 1 month old and one is not even 3 yet, it makes it so easy. Like, they don't care what's going on. As long as they're with you, they're happy. But it does make it very different because my son is actually in kindergarten now, and it rips my heart out thinking that I'm going to have to take him out of school and then move to somewhere else, and we don't have something straight away lined up. So this time is kind of similar, but also very different in a lot of ways. It just feels like there's a ton of little pieces that are just, we're trying to figure out how they fit together, and it makes it very overwhelming. Another big piece of this puzzle here is the fact that we can't stay in Canada. And this is one of the most asked questions, like, why don't you just move to Saskatchewan where it's cheaper, or move to Ontario, or move to a smaller town in BC? We can't. Like, it's not a very viable option for us. Our visa, the way that it works, Billy got his visa when he won the job in Vancouver, and that gave us our visas as well. His is actually a closed visa, so he cannot work for anybody else legally. I have an open work visa, so technically I could go out and get a job. But the other problem is that our visas expired whenever his job ended this last summer. We applied for an extension of it, and basically they came back to us and said, it takes us so long to process these that we're going to give you an extension until we process it. So technically we could get an email any week now that's like, your visa was denied, you're gonna have to get out of the country immediately. So like that could happen today, we don't know. And so we know that we don't want to stay here very long. He can't get a job here. I don't want to get a job here. And the other piece to it too is that we know that this isn't our long-term goal. Like, we want him to have a music job, and whenever that model works, it works really well for our family. Another thing that I've discovered through this whole process is that I am very much a feelings person, and I just have this feeling that the universe keeps telling me over and over and over again that Canada is not it. It doesn't want us here anymore. Like, we keep trying to find all of these different ways to try to stay here, how to make it work, and we keep like hoping that those situations work, and then we just get a slap in the face and it doesn't work out, and we just get really rejected. And then I don't know, that's just the feeling we have from Canada. Like, this isn't where we're supposed to be anymore. So if you combine that with the fact that America is scary to me right now, where does that leave us? So that leads us to how we decided what we are going to be doing next, which is moving to Germany. I'm going to start this off by saying that we're planning for it to be a short trip because we don't know if it's going to work out. But again, with Billy's job, we have the ability to go over there for a few months, and he's just going to take some auditions and see what happens. But the cool thing is that in the US and Canada, there are 0 auditions for the months of November and December. So as it is, if we just tried to stay in the States or whatever, we would just be sitting there not able to really do much during that time. Whereas in Germany, there are 8 auditions in just that country alone. And that's not even including anything that is open in the rest of Europe, which we can really easily get to once we're over there. So the reason that this even became an idea in our heads, because it wasn't for me at all. Like, Europe feels really impossible and impractical for me to get to. But we have some friends that actually moved there. They were from New Zealand, and her husband's a trumpet player, and he ended up going there, and now he has a job, and now they're living in Germany. And so they were like, hey, we have an extra room. Do you guys want to stay with us for a couple months? And ever since they said that, I wasn't able to stop thinking about it. And even then, it was still a pretty hard no. Like, when they first offered it, we were both like, no, that's silly. There's no way that we can make that work. But then the more that the time went by and all of this just laid out the way that it did, it was like, it doesn't make sense for us to stay here. Like, let's actually go and see what happens. And it might very much not work out. And if that's the case, then we have a great 2 months in Europe going to visit friends, and we get to see some of Germany and maybe some surrounding countries. And it's just a fun thing to do. But if it does work out, then it's going to be amazing, and I'm very excited about that prospect. There are a few cons to this. Like, one, we don't know German, which feels like a big thing, but we keep being reassured by a lot of people that most people do speak English. On top of that, we are going to hit the ground running. Like, we've already started to try to learn as much German as possible right now. I would say it's not going well, but I think once we're over there and we have a lot more support and we're hearing it a lot more, then it will come a lot easier. Another con is that it might not work out, and I think we both accepted that as a reality, and we're both okay with that. And the other is that it's just a lot of shifting for our family, and especially for our children. On the other hand, it's going to be the same amount of shifting no matter where we end up. Like, I've thought about this so much. Like, we know we need to leave Canada, so I'm going to have to pull my son out of school regardless, and we're going to have to be doing homeschool in the meantime. But then it's like we would be moving around from family to family. We'd be moving from Texas to Utah to all over the place, and like, that's not a stable environment either. So the way that we are telling this to our kids is we're going to go to Germany to go visit our friends, and we're just going to have a fun time, and they're happy about that. Because for me, like, my first and foremost thought is, how is this going to affect my kids? And that's a whole big conversation, but I always am putting them at the front of my decisions here. And unfortunately, like, this isn't going to be some smooth transition from A to B. Like, it's going to be a little chaotic. I don't know. It's just, we're doing the best that we can. And for me, what we keep coming back to is just like, what are our goals in life? Because when you go through a huge transition like this, when some life-changing thing happens, you have to readjust your priorities, and it just becomes really apparent what is most important to you. And for me, the big question is, what do I want from life? And I've been like soul searching this for the past several months, and I know what I don't want. What I want exactly is a harder answer that I don't know I'm ever going to find the answer to. I am a big believer in you have the power to shape the life that you want. I have always dreamed of living in Europe, and again, it just always felt so unattainable to me. And now that this option is placed before me and it's like, oh, maybe we can make this work, I am willing to do anything to make it work. And there's definitely something to be said about the energy that you get from following something that you're super passionate and excited about. Like, take these two options, for example. We have the option to do a harder thing, go to Europe. It might not work out, whatever, but I am going to use all of my energy, and I have so much energy to try to make that work. Whereas the other option, like going to the US and not really having anything, and I'm just not excited about that at all. So like, that to me alone is worth the jump. And another thing to be said is that we have a lot of experience moving to other countries, and we are very adaptable people. We assimilate very easily into different cultures, and I love going to different places and seeing how people live differently. And I think that is such a gift to give to our kids as well. Like, in the long term, if this works out, I think this is going to be such a fun thing for them to live in different countries, have family in different parts of the world, and be able to speak a different language. And I just feel like the quality of life over there is so good. And a lot of it just fits us better. Like, there's a big part of me that feels like I am different from a lot of people in America and Canada. Like, I remember when I first moved to New Zealand, like within the first week, I was like, oh, this feels more like home to me than my home does. I am just so excited to give this a go. Okay, moving on to the last section here. The most frequently asked questions are, one, why doesn't Billy get a different job? And again, I explained this a little bit before. He has a closed work visa, so he can't just nip out and get a job here. But the bigger thing is that we don't want him to. The music industry is so incredibly weird because it is your whole life and it's your whole passion. And it's this really strange thing of like, he's been wanting to do this since middle school, and he's been really set on it, and he's worked really hard, and he spent a lot of time and a lot of money to get to this point. And when it works out so beautifully. Like, we love the work-life balance. We love that he's getting to do something that he loves doing, and it just makes us all happier. When daddy's happy making money, then I'm happy that he's doing it, and our kids get to see him doing something that he loves doing. And to me, that's worth all of the turbulence that we might have to go through occasionally. And the other fact of the matter is that he's incredible. Like, if he didn't sound as good as he sounds, I would have said, nope, we need to try something else out. But I've heard him and other people in his profession all the time, even the people that let him go from his job, they all agree that he sounds incredible. Like, I don't know. I just remember sitting in a concert after he had been let go, and he was playing the first horn spot, and I got to sit there and listen to him fill up that concert hall. And I was like, there's no way that sound should not be in an orchestra. Like, tell me that man should be an accountant working behind a desk in an office. No. And I don't know, it's just sometimes people do have gifts for certain things, and I think they're worth fighting for. Okay, the next question is, why don't I get a job? I do have a job. I have social media going, and I've never put it so much at the forefront or the priority so that it's making a whole ton of money. But since he has been let go, then we actually are both putting a lot more effort into it, and it is making more money. Is it enough to live in Vancouver? No, it's not, but it might be enough to live in a lot of other places in the world. But also, I'm excited to see where it goes. Like, I want to keep growing it, and I want to see if I can get it to become an even more viable option. This is my dream right now, that if Billy gets a music job and he has an income coming in, and if I have this going where it's like almost matching his salary, then we will be so set. I'm not one of those people that wants to make like $600,000 in a year with social media. I just want to make a decent income. But I love that this can travel with me wherever I go. And like, I have moved to 3 different countries since I have been doing this, and it can go with me wherever. And another thing I love is that it's super flexible, so I can be home with my kids all day. I also just genuinely enjoy making content. I don't love the influencer part of it, which is why I don't make a lot of money from it, but I don't know, I just find a lot of happiness doing it. So I'm not looking to go out and get a different job at this point in time. Maybe once my daughter is in school, I'll look into different options that are available around me. But it also, again, doesn't make sense for me to go out and try to get a job here when I know that we don't want to be here long term. So within the next year, for sure, Billy will get a different job somewhere else in the world, and it just doesn't make sense to me to go go and get a job to then have to move to follow where his job is. You know what I mean? Okay, and then the last frequently asked question is why we're downsizing the way that we are for this move. And I know for a lot of people it hasn't made sense because they didn't know that we were thinking of moving to a different country. But if we had gotten a different job, so like for example, Billy actually took a job in Kansas City, Missouri, and he got runner-up. So like technically they could call him up and be like, hey, that other person didn't want it, we're offering it to you. Whatever. So if that were to happen, if we were to be going straight from Vancouver to another city, to another job, we wouldn't have really gotten rid of a whole lot. We would have just gotten a moving truck, packed everything into it, and then moved to a new home. That's just not how it worked out for us. And because we are planning on bebopping around quite a bit, like we're going to drive down to Utah so that we can store the stuff that we are going to keep. And then we're going to pack a few suitcases, fly to Germany for who knows how long. Again, it might not work out. It might work out, and then we might be staying there for another year before we can come back and get any of our stuff. You know, it's just like there's so many moving pieces to this and it's all very confusing, and I don't know what the right thing is to do, but we're just doing it because it feels good. I don't know. But having said all of that, most of our stuff is secondhand and a lot of it honestly was free. And so a lot of it is very beaten up. I mean, it's gone through 2.5 years of us living here with 2 kids, and then like I said, most of it was from previous owners beforehand. So like a lot of it is very spent and used up, and a lot of it we're just redonating, regifting to our neighborhood, and then the few things that we do want to keep are easily going to fit into the back of our van. So it's not worth bringing a whole ton. I have a couple other videos planned where I'm like actually going through the process of decluttering and purging everything, and I have a lot of thoughts and feelings in that video as well. And then I also am thinking of making another video on like the process of us moving. And again, it's going to be a hefty trip. Like we have to pack up our house, get out of here, drive all the way down to Utah with our kids, with everything packed into it, store it down there, visit some family for just a little bit, and then fly to a different country with 2 kids. So yeah, it all feels very exciting, very scary, very crazy, and I just don't know. I don't know. I'm just like so excited to see how it goes. And again, I just feel like even if this fails miserably, I will be happy that we did it. I will be happy that we tried, and then we will know that that's not the right move for us, which is fine. And last note is that we do have a giant emergency fund saved up. I've always been very conservative by saying that we have a 6-month emergency fund. Honestly, it was closer to a year, and on top of that, because we have been able to boost up what I have been earning, on top of which we've just been living extra frugally, we actually haven't had to dip into our emergency funds all that much. I said that really stupidly. And I'm hoping that I can keep my income coming in steadily with the fact that we get a free place to stay for a few months. Like, the money side of things don't feel that scary to us, which is a lot coming from me, who is scared of everything finances. So okay, I think that's all I have to say. I'm excited, and yeah, I'm gonna be filming this whole process, and we will see how it goes. Goodbye.